Well, good afternoon, everyone, or good evening, perhaps, to some of you in different time zones. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Andrew Kendrick. I'm the current president of SNAME, and it's my real pleasure today to be asked to introduce this webinar on cybersecurity. And I'm very pleased to be able to do this, not only because of the importance of the topic, but because this gives me an opportunity to talk to several broader themes that are of importance to our industry and to SNAME itself. What we see is that there are rapid advances across a broad range of technologies, which are changing the basic nature of how we design ships and offshore structures, and also how we can expect them to be operated. The integration of modern electronics into every aspect of platforms and equipment should be making us all rethink how we can benefit from the opportunities which they offer, but also our underlying assumptions about risks and challenges. Traditionally, for us naval architects and marine engineers, the mariners themselves are our fail-safe. They're the Swiss Army knife tool able to intervene to solve a range of problems. However, for many modern systems, whether the underlying cause of an incident is an accidental failure or a malicious attack, local solutions may not be available. We need to ensure that systems are as robust and as resilient as reasonably practical, and also that meaningful forms of support can be provided to people at the sharp end. ABB is well placed to discuss these challenges. The company is a global player across a wide range of industry sectors, including, but by no means limited, to the marine and offshore. This helps in applying lessons learned to the development of best practices that are also appropriate to the specific needs of ships and shipping. SNAME is particularly happy that ABB is one of a number of leading companies to have joined our corporate affiliate program, which was set up a few years ago, with one objective being to promote precisely the types of cross-fertilization offered by today's presentation. The corporate affiliate programs described more fully on our website, but to summarize the approach, it facilitates access to SNAME members and events, while offering our own members additional technical knowledge and the opportunity to engage with experts, such as our two presenters for today's webinar. With that, I'll turn the podium over to Ahmed Hassan and Bruce Strupp from ABB. Their resumes speak to their expertise in areas of engagement, and I look forward to their insights in this critically important area.
Thank you very much, Andrew. On behalf of ABB Marine and Ports, I'd like to welcome all my SNAME colleagues and guests to today's SNAME hosted webinar on cybersecurity, how to minimize risks in the marine industry. My name is Bruce Strupp. I am a senior account manager within the ABB Marine and Ports group. And joining me today, sharing some of his extensive industry expertise and knowledge on cybersecurity will be Ahmed Hassan, who is the head of cybersecurity within the ABB Marine and Ports group. Andrew touched a little bit on ABB Marine and Ports and what it is that we do. And ABB is actually part of the larger ABB group, which a lot of people have probably seen our EV chargers, transformers, other electrical infrastructure equipment driving down the road. But ABB is actually heavily invested and is a technology leader in the marine industry and ports industry as well. At ABB, our vision is that marine transportation of the future is electric, digital, and connected. And there's inherent benefits to all three of those reasons. Electrification of marine and port technology is safer. If done properly, you have the ability from an engineering standpoint to design in additional levels of redundancy that as an operator you would not have from a traditional mechanical equipment. It's also inherently safer from an operational safety standpoint because all of this equipment that's being used in this electrification technology is all digital in nature. It's all producing information that can be viewed real time, and with a lot of data collection, you're able to perform predictive analytics on that equipment to get a better understanding of how it's performing and what the life cycle of that equipment will be. Electrification equipment's also more efficient. Like I said, with all the digital information that is being produced by this equipment, as an operator and with AI system support, you have the ability to make real-time decisions on how to operate that equipment much more efficiently. You also have the ability to operate your vessel cheaper. And we've seen this in real life data coming from specific applications in the ferry segment and the tug segment, where customers are seeing significant operational expense reduction over the life of the vessel compared to a sister vessel that would have a mechanical driveline on board. And with this electrification technology, we also have the ability to integrate some of the newer, more environmentally friendly power technologies that are becoming available, like fuel cells, energy storage, and who knows what's actually going to be coming around the corner. All this architecture is able to integrate these new sources of power relatively easily. So we're in the position today where we can actually design vessels with an electronic architecture that will last the life of the vessel. But with all this technology does come some other risks. And one of those major risks that we're here to talk about today is cybersecurity and what we can do to prevent that from becoming a risk for your operations. But prior to jumping into that, just a little bit of housekeeping. We've prepared about a 45-minute discussion on the risks of cybersecurity in the marine industry. And really, I'm going to be leaning on Ahmed to share some of his insight and expertise, talk about some of the industry standards that are out there, and talk about some of the solutions that ABB has developed and how we're supporting customers in the marine industry today. As we go through this presentation, you'll have the opportunity to input questions in the field. At the end of our prepared remarks, we will have about a 10-minute Q&A session. We'll try to get to everyone's questions. If we don't get to it, we will follow up with you after today's webinar. A little bit of background about myself and Ahmed. Like I said, my name is Bruce Strupp. I've been involved in the marine industry for a little over 25 years. I'm a marine engineer by education. Worked most of my career with companies that are heavily involved in the marine industry. Held quite a few different roles. I've been in sales, been in product support, product development, business development, Six Sigma. Like I said, I'm a marine engineer by heart and by passion. Graduated from Kings Point with a degree in marine engineering, sailed for a little bit, and then also spent a little bit of time in the Naval Reserve. Our expert today, Ahmed, who's head of cybersecurity at ABB, is essentially responsible for delivering cybersecurity solutions based on the industry standards that are developed today, and also based on a lot of the feedback and input that we're receiving from specific customers. Ahmed has about 15 years of operational technology systems and experience, and has held many different roles within ABB during that time. Ahmed graduated from Helwan University in Egypt and holds a bachelor's degree in power machine systems with a specialty in control and automation systems. Ahmed, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Bruce, for the introduction, and thanks everyone for joining the webinar today. And since we have quite limited time, and also Bruce and Andrew have done really great introduction, I will go ahead and start the presentation.
Okay. So Ahmed, first question for you. And I get this a lot from the operators that I speak with, especially in the ferry segment. A lot of these vessel operators are coming from mechanical driveline vessels that are, don't have a high degree of technology in them today. Some of these vessels are, 50, 60 years old, and they're asking me the question, what are some of the basics of cybersecurity?
Right. Let's then start with some guiding principles. The reality, there is no such thing like 100% or absolute security. There is always a risk, and we always need to be ready to the worst case scenario. Process. Cybersecurity is not a destination, but it's actually an evolving target. Also, it is not a product, but a process. And this process needs to be followed at all time, and also need to be maintained and developed. The third point of the guiding principles is a balance. And since cybersecurity affects the usability of the system and increase the cost, it's essential to find the right balance. And finding the right balance can be achieved by understanding the criticality of the asset and apply a risk assessment to understand what is the risk valid for this asset. So it's fair to say that cybersecurity is all about risk assessment. In 2015, the US Department of Homeland Security have responded to 295 industrial control system incidents. 98% of those incidents could have been mitigated by applying basic processes and controls. For example, keep the system patched, update the antivirus, have a proper disaster recovery procedure in place, password policy, asset inventory, and proper network segmentation. Also, the Center of Internet Security have introduced 20 security controls. Fulfilling those 20 security controls could reduce the risk of cyber attack by 85%. Again, it's basic security controls like having an inventory for system hardware and software, continuous vulnerability management, have a control for the administration access to the system, secure configuration for the hardware and software, and of course, monitoring of the audit logs. Also, recently, we see an improvement in global standards like the IEC 62443, also the NIST cybersecurity framework, and other global standards. All those standards have the same theme of applying and manage basic security controls. Many of us have been hearing about many security or cybersecurity attacks in the last 10 years. Starting from the Iranian nuclear plant cybersecurity attack, which had been the first cybersecurity attack or first known cybersecurity attack on the OT systems. That was back in 2010. Also, the Ukrainian power plant cybersecurity attack in 2015, where 225,000 Ukrainian citizens lost the power for more than 6 hours. And recently, the Colonial pipeline in USA, it's a ransomware attack, and the American pipeline had to halt the operation for 6 days. We have seen a lot of videos related to buy panic or panic buy in the gas stations, and also the American airlines, they had to delay some of the flights due to the shortage in the jet fuel. Also, we have seen some cybersecurity attacks related to maritime industry. For example, the very known cybersecurity attack in 2017 in Maersk shipping company. It's a ransomware attack. It took down 17 terminals out of 76 globally. It had also an effect of 20% reduction in the shipping, and also an estimated recovery cost of 250 to 350 million USD. In 2020, in Norway, Hurtigruten had a cybersecurity attack by the end of 2020, and also Aida cruise ships in Germany had a cybersecurity attack, and also it was a ransomware attack. 2021, also Steamship Authority in USA had a cybersecurity attack. So we see that the cyber security risk is real, and we need to work all together to lower the risk of cyber attacks by applying cybersecurity best practices.
Ahmed, a question for you. These are all cybersecurity attacks that have been reported on and made public, but there's a lot more going on out there that's not being shared with the general public. Can you talk a little bit about that?
That's a good question, Bruce. And actually, what we see in the media is just a small fraction of the real number of cybersecurity attacks. If we go back to the report from the Department of Homeland Security from USA, you can see that 259 or 295 actually attack happened in just 1 year in 2015. And the majority of those attacks have been unseen. And the organizations, they figured out that they had this attack after it happened. And not all those attacks have been announced in the media and in the news. So what we can see in the media and the news is just a small fraction of the number or the real number of cyber attacks.
Great, thank you for that, Ahmed. I mean, it certainly sounds like you've got a lot of great experience, and obviously globally, there's been, unfortunately, a lot of opportunity to learn from some of these cyber attacks that have happened here in the past. Can you maybe talk a little bit about some of the standards that have been developed by the various different regulatory bodies in marine to address any cybersecurity risks associated with marine applications?
Sure. Recently, also the Classification Society and the Marine Organization started to improve the regulations related to cybersecurity. If we take an example, the International Maritime Organization, they have introduced a new guidelines for cybersecurity, and as a result of those guidelines, that the cyber risk should be addressed in safety management systems no later than the first annual verification of document of compliance after 1st of January 2021. So all vessels in operation need to consider or address cybersecurity risk from the 1st of January 2021, according to the International Maritime Organization. Also, DNV have introduced a cybersecurity class notation in 2018. And the cybersecurity class notation from DNV have 3 security level: cyber secure, which is focusing on the International Maritime Organization guidelines, and the second level is essential, and this is targeting the protection from unintentional cybersecurity attack, like, for example, a USB device used by a crew member which is not scanned. This is called unintentional cybersecurity attack. So this is the essential level. And finally, the advanced cybersecurity level, which is protecting from an intentional cybersecurity attack using sophisticated means. Similarly, we have seen the Lloyd Register. They have introduced the shipwright procedure. Again, it's 4 security level. And ABS have also introduced a cybersecurity class notation, and it consists of also of 4 security level: cybersecurity system ready and cybersecurity 1 and 2. And it's not only the International Maritime Organization and the Classification Society. We can see also other organizations have introduced cybersecurity regulation to address cybersecurity risk. For example, the BIMCO, it's Baltic and International Maritime Council, TMSA, tank management and self-assessment, and other regulations like from the flag state requirements, and all of them focusing on releasing cybersecurity requirement and regulations to address cybersecurity risk.
Thanks for that, Ahmed. And I know you've spent a lot of time working with the Marine Classification Society, specifically on developing some of the standards and how they can be applied to the marine industry. And you've been working on doing this for a while with customers, and ABB has developed some of our own specific approaches from a process standpoint and some solutions to help customers out with cybersecurity. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So ABB have, or ABB see, ABB see that the cybersecurity starts from the factory or from the product design phase. So ABB have introduced the minimum cybersecurity requirements in 2014, and the main focus of the minimum cybersecurity requirement is to address the cybersecurity risk throughout the entire life cycle of a system. That's starting from, as I said, from the product design phase, implementation of the product, how to make a secure code for the product, until the product released to the market. Moving to the next phase, which is the project. So all ABB project engineers need to fulfill the minimum cybersecurity requirement and follow the minimum cybersecurity requirement during all project phases, including design, engineering, testing phases like factory acceptance test and the site acceptance test, and for example, also C trials. Moving to the third phase of the life cycle, where the product is in operation in the plant, ABB providing guidelines as well as services to the ship owner and ship operator to maintain the cybersecurity. So the message here is that ABB see that cybersecurity need to be addressed throughout the entire life cycle of the system. Moving to ABB portfolio. ABB cybersecurity portfolio focus on people, processes, and technology. And the portfolio is split into three main parts. The first part is the foundation, and this is where we should start. And the foundation consists of assessment, security controls, like cybersecurity solutions, and reference architecture. It's an architecture or a reference architecture for network, and the cybersecurity training. The second part is related to services. It's a contractual agreement with the ship owner or ship operator or customer in general, and it covers the maintenance of the security controls of security solutions as part of the foundation. Finally, the operations. Again, it's a multi-year contractual agreement with customers. 24/7 event monitoring from the Security Operations Center in ABB facilities. Let's dive a little bit deeper into the portfolio, cybersecurity portfolio from ABB. Starting from the assessment, ABB offers three types of assessment. The security assessment. This is the first level, and it's quite a simple type of assessment where ABB experts arrive on board the vessel, use ABB tools to collect the status of the security of the system, like the status of the security updates if it's not installed since several months or several days, also if the antivirus is updated or not. And then we provide a report to the customer with the findings, and of course also help the decision maker to take the next step by providing suggested plans. The second type of assessment is the cybersecurity risk assessment. The risk assessment is focusing on the cyber risk, and the outcome of this assessment is defining or identifying the critical assets on board the vessel, and also what kind of risk applies for those assets. And again, in the report, it's very important that ABB put a suggested actions to mitigate the risk for the valuable assets and the critical assets. Finally, the third type of assessment is a gap assessment. And here we compare between two things: the system in operation on board the vessel and an international standard, like the IEC 62443 or, for example, DMV class requirement. And when we compare between the two things, we come with some gaps between the international standard and the system, and then we provide also customer with a report for how they can close those gaps.
So, Ahmed, question for you here. If I'm an operator and I'm, at ground zero right now, as far as a cybersecurity system is concerned or a process is concerned, where do I start?
Well, definitely starting from identification or identify. It's very important that when we approach cybersecurity to identify the critical assets. So once the critical asset is identified, I can also apply a risk assessment. And then this risk assessment will help me to understand what is the risk that I have on board the vessel and what kind of solution I can use to mitigate the risk. And coming to solutions, so this second part of the foundation, which is a security control, defining actually what kind of solutions we can deploy on board to mitigate cybersecurity risk. So what we see now on the screen is ABB Marine network architecture. It's based on process automation reference architecture, where ABB experts from process automation have developed the architecture to be used by different industries like oil and gas, marine, and other industries. So what we see here is kind of the marine version of PA, or process automation reference architecture. We split the system into three main zones: the control system zone, where we have the control systems like the automation systems, a propulsion system, remote control system, and other control systems. The operations and management zone, this is a zone where we control and manage the network of the system and also the backups from all system zones. And finally, the demilitarized zone, or the DMZ zone, and this is an intermediate zone between the outside world, like the internet, and the control system. For each area here, or you can call it zone, we apply basic security controls. For example, system hardening, patch management, access management, malware protection, whitelisting, and backup and recovery. Also, ABB use firewalls between different zones to control the traffic. And those firewalls configure to deny all traffic by default and allow by exception. So the cybersecurity engineer configured the firewalls to allow only needed traffic between the zones. Ship firewall. This firewall is not in ABB control. It should be in the ship owner and ship operator control. And basically, it filters all the traffic coming from the outside, like from the internet, before it comes in the systems on board the vessel. ABB North firewall, that's a second layer of protection, where we filter all the traffic we have coming from the ship network. Let's also talk a little bit about the cybersecurity controls, or the solutions we offer to customer to address cybersecurity risk. Starting from the RAP, this is the remote access platform. The remote access platform has two main functionality. The first one is to provide the customers with a remote access solution, so that ABB engineer or ABB service engineer can support the customer while they are in operation. Also, the RAP has security or secure file transfer, where we can export some of the data on board the vessel safely to ABB premises. And of course, all data coming from the vessel to ABB servers is encrypted. The second solution is security update service. The main function of this solution is to keep the systems on board the vessel up to date with the latest security updates. For example, in automation zone, we have PCs with Windows 10 or servers with Windows 2019. So all these kind of updates need to be installed regularly, and the SUS solution is helping the ship owner to have the security updates addressed. ABB experts verifying the security updates released by Microsoft and also antivirus like McAfee before it can be available on ABB upstream server. And once it's available on ABB upstream server, it will be pushed automatically to all vessels in operation. Of course, we only download the security updates. We are not installing it automatically, and the security updates will be available on board the vessel. The ship owner will get a notification that there is an updates available for installation, and then it should be agreed with the crew on board when exactly the cybersecurity engineer from ABB can install the security updates. Also, as part of the same solution, we are using application whitelisting. This is a solution to help the administrator to prevent any unknown or unsecured software to be installed on any of the workstation or server on board the vessel. So it's kind of a control we add to control what kind of software can run on the computers and can be installed. Once the security updates available on the downstream server, it will be pushed automatically to all system zones. As I said, without installation, just push it, make it available, give the alert to the operator that there is a new update, and then schedule the installation. The audit log. This is a solution that helps to collect the audit logs from all system nodes. I'm talking about Windows nodes, server nodes, firewalls, switches, routers, controllers, AC800M controllers, AC500 controllers, 800XA system. All the system nodes are sending the logs automatically to the audit log server. And the reason we need this solution on board the vessel is to understand what's happening on the system, especially after a cyber attack. So if there is any cyber attack happened on board the vessel, the best place to go and investigate will be the audit log server. There you can actually assign an ABB expert to run a forensic analysis or forensic investigation for what happened before the cyber attack take place. So I would call it as essential solution, actually. All right, and then the security information and event management solution. This is really sophisticated cybersecurity solution where it communicates with all other solutions on board the vessel, like it communicates, for example, with audit logs, and it can provide the crew on board with alarms related to cybersecurity to take a proactive actions. So this proactive action can prevent cybersecurity or any kind of attack from happening, and also can help to reduce the consequences of cyber attack. Also, we have the USB protection. Of course, it's not eliminating the risk from using USB devices, but at least it reduces the risk related to using USB devices. And we eliminate or we reduce the risk by preventing any USB device to be used on any of system nodes before it is scanned. So first, scan the USB before it can be used on system nodes. Moving to the operations and management zone. There we have some management software, like, for example, the vCenter or any software used to handle the virtualization of the control system. We also have a backup management server, where we have software to manage system backups and make sure that it's stored in a central storage in the operations management server. Network management, this is a solution to provide central management for system network, and also provide a solution to enforce the security policy for all the zone boundaries. Finally, the cybersecurity asset inventory, and it has main 4 functions. It makes a deep network monitoring, and it's actually passive network monitoring, and also it can alert for vulnerabilities related to the communication happening between the nodes. So if there is any suspicious communication happening between 2 nodes, it can be alerted in the cybersecurity asset inventory. And at the 3rd function, it can also list down all TCP-based devices on the system, provide the MAC address, the IP address, the serial numbers, the manufacturer, and very essential information about the assets used on the system. And finally, it can also alert for vulnerabilities related to those assets. So if ABB, for example, use AC800M controller on the automation zone, and then ABB someday they announced a vulnerability related to this controller, this vulnerability will be alerted on the cybersecurity asset inventory for the crew on board to take the proper action. So that was about the cybersecurity controls ABB offer in our portfolio. Also, we focus on training, and this is we have 2 type of training that we offer in ABB. The basic level, and there the learner will get basic information about the meaning of cybersecurity threats, risks, and vulnerabilities. Also will get to understand what kind of technology, basic technology, can be used to mitigate the risk, and also get some knowledge about social engineering techniques, phishing emails and phishing techniques, and also the malicious emails, of course. So all this kind of basic knowledge will the learner will get from the basic cybersecurity course. And then we also offer the H831 cybersecurity advanced level, and there the learner will get more information about the governance of cybersecurity, how to understand the risk and make a risk assessment, and also how to use more advanced and more sophisticated technology to monitor cybersecurity on board the vessel. Cybersecurity maintenance service. Moving to the second part of the portfolio, which is a service. So the maintenance service is a contractual agreement between ABB and the ship owner or ship operator. And this contractual agreement is mainly focusing on maintaining the security controls. And we have actually 4 levels of cybersecurity service. The first one is a health check. And this is a very basic cybersecurity service where the service engineer go on board the vessel or access from remote quarterly and execute a health check for the security. For example, inform the customer in the report if they have not been updating the antivirus, if the security updates are not installed, put this in a report and inform customer about the findings and help also decision maker to take the next step. So it's very similar to the security assessment that we have described in the assessment section, but happening regularly every quarter. The second security level, cybersecurity essential. And there we are focusing on the International Maritime Organization targets. And there we focus on main two controls. Keep the system updated with the latest security updates and be ready for disaster recovery. So be ready for a cybersecurity attack. So those are the two things we focus on the cybersecurity essential. Keep the system patched, be ready for cyber attack. Going one level higher, the intermediate level, there we protect against a casual or coincidental violation. And in this level, we address the same things that we address in essential. However, we add on that the log aggregation. So we enable the ship owner or ship operator to execute a forensic investigation. So basically, if we refer to the security controls, in this level, we add the log aggregation or the audit log server to keep the logs in a central storage in the system. The last part or the last level of the cybersecurity services is the advanced level. And there we target maintaining security controls to protect against intentional violation using sophisticated means, moderate resources, OT specific skills, and moderate motivation. Of course, this is quite high cybersecurity level, and we apply the event monitoring solution to be able to continuously monitoring the system security, and of course alert the crew for any suspicious actions or any suspicious communication happening on the vessel, to take a proactive actions to avoid a cyber attack or to reduce the consequences. Also, it's important to say that it's all about risk management again, because selecting one of those security levels need to be based on proper cybersecurity assessment done on the systems we have on board the vessel. Okay, consulting services. The consulting services is a service that we provide to ABB customer based on customer request. It can be strategy and policy improvement. It can be one-time system hardening. If the customer facing a cybersecurity attack, we can join the customer to do a disaster recovery and other type of services. So it is a custom service based on a specific request we receive from our customers. Finally, the operations part of the portfolio. And in the operation part, ABB offer customer to join cybersecurity operation. So ABB expert will provide customer with 24/7 cybersecurity event monitoring, threat intelligence, and incident response. And of course, if there is any cyber attack, we also can join the customer for execution of the disaster recovery. The operations usually is a multi-year contract with the customer, and it is done from our security operations center. This is kind of an overview for ABB cybersecurity portfolio. So we have been discussing the foundation and the assessment type of the foundation, cybersecurity controls and training. Also the service part, we have been describing what we have for maintenance and consulting services, and also the operations part. So this is kind of an overview for you guys. After we are done with the presentation, you can also kind of have this overview.
All right, thanks, Ahmed. I think I might have jumped the gun earlier on you on the one question I'd asked you in regards to how I get started. Can you maybe rehash that for a minute here since we have the slide up on the screen?
Yeah. So where to start is, as we indicated earlier, is to identify. It's important to first understand the criticality of the asset that we have on board and what kind of risk this asset have. And based on the criticality and the risk, we can then decide what kind of security controls we need on board, what kind of processes do we need to have, the training for the crew on board, also define and identify the rules and responsibility, who is doing what will happen if we have a cyber attack, what can we do if we have an alarm on the event monitoring system, and so on. So the one word answer to where to start will be identify.
Okay. Thanks, Ahmed. And we're going to move into our question and answer portion of the webinar. Thank you, Ahmed, for sharing all your knowledge and experience here. I'm going to leave this screen up on this slide up on the screen for the duration of the presentation. It has Ahmed's contact information and my contact information if you would like to reach out to us after the webinar is complete. I also have a QR code on here. I'm going to use this as an opportunity to do a little advertising on behalf of ABB Marine and Ports. We are hiring. We've won some projects recently, and we're having to grow our team to support execution of those projects. So if that's something that you're interested in, feel free to go out there and take a look. We do have some questions coming in. One of the first ones is, will these slides be available after the webinar? And yes, we will make these slides available through SNAME so that they can share them with the attendees that have registered for the webinar. Another question that we have received, Ahmed, do you see the balance between technical security measures and procedural security measures changing over time, or will both have to increase as threats grow?
Well, we have seen quite an improvement recently in the maritime industry. The ship owners and the shipyards actually have been quite active with ABB to address these cybersecurity risk. And yeah, we are seeing a significant improvement in the maritime industry. So.
Okay, thank you. Another question we've received, compared to land-based systems, are cybersecurity concepts different for marine?
Well, the main issue that we have been facing in marine is actually the connection. So the vessels, usually they have a satellite connection. It's very difficult sometimes to receive the security updates on board the vessel, but with using the right technology and make sure that we understand the systems on board, so we can send only the needed security updates. So there are some solutions, of course, to send all Microsoft updates on board the vessel, but that might actually be quite a lot to be sent on a satellite connection. So the best solution is to send only the needed updates by understanding what's the products on board the vessel. So that was one of the major differences actually we have between land-based and marine projects or marine systems. Also, as you know, the vessel is just running in the sea, so it's the physical presence for ABB service engineer is not as easy as land-based. So that's why we started to improve our processes in ABB and improve our solutions to address acting from remote. So having the remote access platform in place, having the right solutions to push the security updates, and also be able to install the security updates from remote.
Okay, thanks, Ahmed. Another question. What may be the worst case cybersecurity disaster scenario specific to the marine industry?
Well, a complete failure in the automation and propulsion system, complete failure in the safety systems like ESD and fire and gas and so on. So that can be a really big disaster on board the vessel, especially if you lose the propulsion. And that might happen by, of course, you can say that you can switch to manual, but practically that's very difficult.
Okay, thank you. Another question, can ABB perform risk assessments remotely? What resources would ABB require?
If the secure remote access available on board, then yes, we are doing actually cybersecurity assessment from remote, and also we are doing security health check every quarter in some cases from remote as well.
Okay. When you are talking about identifying critical assets, are you basically saying that you're identifying the critical systems within the control zone, or does it extend to other zones you mentioned as well?
Of course, the critical assets can be in any zones. It can be in the control zone or also on the IT level of the vessel. So usually the critical assets can be identified by the ship owner. So we focus on ABB scope. Of course, if the ship owner is interested for ABB to help also on the IT level or other control systems, we are ready to help. But it's not only about ABB scope. The critical asset can be anywhere on the system, on ABB scope or on the IT level or other control systems.
Okay, thank you. Here's a good one. What are some current research challenges related to this topic that you'd like to see academia address?
Maybe the awareness of the ship owners and ship operators. As I said, we are seeing improvement, but the awareness of the crew, especially for small segments like, for example, fishing vessels and so on, I would say this awareness issue, we have seen a big gap. However, I also would like to say that we have some students working with ABB, doing master degrees in cybersecurity, using ABB lab in Finland as a place where they play with our solutions and try to find the gaps and the errors. And yeah, we are also helping the researchers and the master students.
Okay, thanks. Ahmed, another one. In your opinion, how bad is the cybersecurity challenge right now in marine? How bad will it get short-term, long-term? And then what about the same questions in other related industries?
Well, if you are taking, for example, the oil and gas industry as an example, we see that in the oil and gas industry, they have a really many of the oil and gas companies. They have a very good cybersecurity processes in place. We are definitely behind in marine industry, but improving. And yeah, we see quite a lot of improvements, and I think we are moving to the right direction in the marine industry. If you just repeat the second part of the question, Bruce.
I think they're wanting to understand, in your perspective, what is the prognosis in the short and long term for cybersecurity? Will things get a lot worse? Will things start getting better as it relates to marine?
Well, as I said, the regulations are improving, so we are expecting things to get a lot better in the future. We have seen also in the new build projects that the customers are requesting to fulfill the best practices for cybersecurity. Some customers also have been requesting actually quite sophisticated solutions to make sure that they maintain system security and they monitor. So yeah, we are moving to the right direction. We are expecting to move to be better.
I can tell you on a lot of the new build electrification vessels that I've been involved in, almost every one of them has some cybersecurity element into it now. So a lot of operators are starting to think of that today. So that's good to see. Another question for you, Ahmed. What measures do you see to ensure a secure connection to a remote vessel?
That's a good question. There's a lot of security measures that you need to take for secure remote access. Of course, it depends on the what kind of level that the customer have requested. But let's say we have a few requirement on the secure remote access. Let's call it the best practices. Like for example, the remote access cannot establish by the service engineer without approval from the crew on board. This is a very important measure. Also, the information, the exchange of information has to be encrypted between the destination and the sender of the information. Multi-factor authentication, a very important measure that need to be taken on board, to have a multi-factor authentication before accessing the system on board. So those, let's say, those are three measures I would call the best practice, but there's a lot of other measures need to be taken to secure a remote access.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ahmed. I think we're just about out of time for questions. The last one for you, Ahmed, if you could summarize in about 2 minutes the message that you'd like all of the SNAME and guests who attended this webinar to take away, what would it be?
Well, I would like to say that cybersecurity in marine industry, or the risk of cybersecurity in marine industry, is real. We have seen incidents related to marine industry for the OT systems as well as the IT systems. And it's not a matter of if the intrusion will happen or not, it's actually a matter of when it will happen. So we encourage the ship owners, ship operators to start looking into the risk of cybersecurity, apply the best practices, keep the systems updated with security patches, keep the antiviruses updated, monitor the security, and of course, the most important message is to be ready for the worst case scenario and be ready for a cyber attack.
Okay, thank you very much, Ahmed. Appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule and sharing your wealth of knowledge on cybersecurity with us today. On behalf of ABB Marine and Ports and SNAME, I'd like to thank everybody for attending today's webinar on cybersecurity and the risks in the marine industry. If you do have any questions or you would like additional information, please do not hesitate to reach out to Ahmed. His email is on the screen. He's going to be in a position to be able to answer cybersecurity questions better than I am. If you have any marine electrification questions, whether it's a ferry, tug, cargo vessel, please feel free to email me and I'll do my best to respond to it. A copy of this will be made available by SNAME, and we're going to work to get you guys a copy of these slides. Thank you, and I hope everybody has a great rest of your day.
Thank you.